The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships, or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
All right, guys, I want to welcome you to Habit-Based Lifestyle Show. Today, we are going to be talking about balance. And in this specific episode, I was asked last week, how do you balance work-life balance when it comes to being your own business owner? And I thought it was a great question. It's one I actually get a lot. And so I really want to take a deep dive into this today because I believe that this is going to help you out because I know this is a question that I often get. So let's get into today. So number one, hey, who is this episode for? This is for the business owner that has a really hard time, closing their business when they get off work. And in really understanding this. So let's get into today. So, how do we have a healthy work-life balance? I think, one of the biggest misconstraints as a business owner is, number one, that we should have equal balance in all of these areas. And if you think about it, if you're a business owner, or just even maybe an executive, you're going to work for a minimum of 8 hours a day, or you're going to be working for a minimum of 8 hours a day. That means that, let's just say you're sleeping somewhere between 6 to 8 hours a day. That means somewhere between 14 to 16 hours a day, your time is already kind of limited, right? And so that means you're going to be working for a minimum of 8 hours a day. You're going to be sleeping for a minimum of probably 6, 7, 8 hours a day. That means somewhere between 14 to 16 hours a day, your time is already going to be eaten up. Now, what I want you to think about is this. What are you doing with the other 8 to 10 hours of the day? And so a couple of things come to mind. Number one, I know a lot of people talk about the hustle and grind. As a business owner, especially starting out, I'm not going to lie. You may have to work 10, 12 hours a day. But whatever that is, the thing that I've found the most is the people who tend to work more are less productive. The people who tend to work less are more productive. I even know for myself, when I used to work, 12, 14 hours a day, I'm like, dude, I'm hustling, grinding. You don't understand. I can't get off. But when I started setting a time to be done with work, that meant that I actually had a time frame to get my work done. So the very first thing, if you want to establish a healthy work-life balance, is to establish a time frame of when you're going to go to work and when you're going to get off. Now, what's happened in the last few years is more and more people are working from home, which means that one of two things can happen. If you have kids at home, you can get distracted. If you have other stuff going on, like thinking of, man, I could be vacuuming, I could be doing laundry. In some ways, we can be less productive. Now, in other ways, we've seen people actually be more productive because they're saving on drive time. They're able to interact with their kids. They're able to kind of, do some things at home. So depending on where you're at, if you're at home, I would still set hours of when you're going to work. I would also set some breaks. And if you drive to work and you have kind of like a job or you have a brick and mortar business that you may be driving to or an office, you're still going to set your hours. And so the best way I can tell you to do this is begin to set a time of when you're going to go to work. So maybe, my hours, I usually get here around 6. I usually kind of do my morning routine. It's usually 2 to 3 hours. And I kind of start my day at 9, and 9 o'clock to 5:30 or 6, depending on the day. I have kind of this thing that's like, okay, I'm off by this time. So whatever I got to get done happens between those hours. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. A lot of times I don't get everything done in the day that I want to get done, but I notice the days where I'm less productive, I have a tendency to kind of chase things after work. When I'm productive, I tend to be more balanced when I get home. So here's a couple things you can do. Number one, set the time of when you're going to work. So if you're going to work 9 to 6, 9 to 5, whatever that is, then in there, schedule a lunchtime, schedule a break time, schedule a time where, maybe you go for a walk. Now, the reason why I tell people to go for a walk at some point in the day kind of clears your head, kind of resets you for that second half of the day. And I really believe that if you go for a walk, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, you kind of clear your head, and you kind of do this halfway through the day, you reset your day, and then you get on with the rest of it. Now, this allows you to be more productive. Now, the other thing I would probably do halfway in the day, which is probably around lunch, typically I try to eat lunch, I try to go for a walk, and then when I come back, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. All of these things take about 40 minutes to do all together, and that kind of gets me set up for the second half of the day. Am I always consistent with that? No, but I'm pretty good at doing this, probably out of 5 days a week. If I got to take a shorter walk, cool. I don't really care. I just want to make sure that I'm going for a walk and I'm active. Okay. So even if you're at home, you're going to do the same thing. Go for a walk in your neighborhood, maybe, take your kids for a walk, whatever that is, but get outside and try to do something. Now, the other thing is when I get off work, I want you to think of this. I came up with this thing a few years ago, and it was this: dad sets the tone. I'm writing on a whiteboard. You guys can't see it, so I'll just stop. But dad sets the tone when he gets home. Now, you can get rid of dad. You could say dad or mom sets the tone when they get home, when they get off work. That means that, one thing that I really work hard at doing is setting my phone down for at least 1 to 2 hours when I get home, because that kind of helps me leave everything, at the office when I walk through the door, and I give my wife attention. A lot of times I cook dinner. And so that means that I have some time, one-on-one time with my kids, some family time with my family, to kind of check in with everybody for a few hours. And then usually we end up, maybe taking a shower, kind of getting ready for the night. And then once we do that, I might sit down for 30 minutes and kind of check in with my clients. If you're coaching, your clients sometimes need things from you. So I will take a half hour. I'll take 40 minutes at night, kind of check in, make sure, I don't have any urgent messages. And then I'll shut my phone off and kind of clear that out for the rest of the night. I'll try to stay off it as much as possible. But the biggest misconception that you're going to find out is this: we're looking for work-life balance. We're looking for equal portions of each. You're not going to spend 8 hours a day with your kids. You're not going to spend 8 hours a day with your spouse. You're not going to spend an equal amount of time, doing all these things. But what you can do is be intentional about these things. And the thing that I found out with kids is it's about the intention of time. It's not necessarily about the length of time. And so I could spend 20 minutes with my kids, undivided attention. That's worth more than me hanging around them, being on my phone for an hour and a half or 2 hours and not really ever connecting. And so let's just think of balance as a thing of we're balancing intention. We're not really balancing time, because I think that's the misconception. Now, are there days where we can, invest more time with our kids? Of course. Are there days where we can, do more of those things? Yes. But like typically during the work week, you own a business. I mean, you're 8 to 10 hours a day at work. You're 6 to 8 hours a day of sleeping. And so that leaves you with 8 hours left over to really make your day count. Having a stop time when you're done working, Also giving yourself, maybe 30 minutes later, once you've gotten home, to kind of check back in, but put your phone down when you walk in the door for the first couple hours. The other thing is this, focus on the intention that you have when you come home or when you get off work. Are you giving your kids, are you giving your spouse the attention and intention? Are you being intentional about your time? Not just looking at, man, I'm trying to, spend this much time. Here's the thing that I know. If there's kids going on, if there's a bunch of stuff going on at my house, I can't work anyways. And so the quality of what I'm doing for work isn't there. I would much rather have my work be quality versus quantity. And so, cutting out distractions, cutting out things like that. But sometimes at night, just having that 30 minutes allows me to communicate with some people and then shut it off for the night. And that's really, the most important thing when it comes to this is being able to do that. So let's recap. How do you keep a work-life balance? Number one, you set hours of when you're going to start work, when you're going to get off, and then also when you're going to take a break. And I recommend your break should be walking, should be some type of, obviously eating, and then some type of, breath work, meditation. You want to read, you want to listen to some music. Awesome. But take about 30 to 40 minutes to do that halfway through your day, kind of reset everything else. The other thing is, once you've stopped working, say the phrase that, if you're a dad sets the tone when he gets home, because you do, and you have to come back into a place where, you have your kids' energy, you have your wife or your spouse, and you kind of have to balance that out. But remember that you've been gone. And so you want to make sure you set the tone. Now, if you're a mom or woman or wife, whatever that is, you're coming back into the home, you're going to do the same thing. And maybe it's just setting down your phone for the first 2 hours. And that's a great way for you to set your tone. The other thing is this, think about it this way. If you work from home, shut your computer down, put your phone up for a couple hours, maybe go for a walk, get out of the environment. Because a lot of times if you're working from home, you don't ever shut it off. And I know for me, a few times when I've worked from home, I wasn't very productive. I couldn't shut it off. I had a really hard time focusing. There was a lot of distractions. So, hey, hats off to you if you work from home. But if you do, have an area that you tell your kids, like, hey, if you want to come in this area and talk to me, this is the time when you can do it. Otherwise, I'm going to be working, unless it's an emergency, obviously. So set kind of like some ground rules at home if you're working from home. And then the last piece is focus on the intention that you guys have when it comes to time versus the quantity of time. And so I think that's really important, because, kids remember the intention you have versus the quality of or quantity of time you have. Kids remember, experiences more than anything else. So, go play with them. When you get off work, go for a walk with them, go do something active. And that kind of gets you out of that normal mode, but that allows you to be intentional with your time versus getting distracted. And here's the other thing is, like, this thing right here, this phone will keep you from being productive, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your business, whatever. Like, even though you could do business on your phone, it's going to distract you from everything else. Even if you want to go home and spend time with your kids, the number one thing that's going to get in the way of balance, that work-life balance or that work-life intention, is your phone. So set your phone down, shut it off, and don't check it for a couple hours and come back to it, and some people are like, man, I can't put it down because I got clients. It's like, well, then you need to let your clients know the first couple hours you get home from work from 6 to 8, I'm not available, or your employees. So if you text me, I'll get back to you after them. And most of the time they don't care. In fact, many times I've had clients say, hey, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. And so I really set this up. Dad sets a tone when he gets home. A couple of years ago, when I was working with male entrepreneurs, and that was exclusively who I worked with, they were saying, man, I'm so distracted when I get home. I said, dude, you're setting the tone when you get home. So start setting a different tone. Put your phone up, give it to your kids, have them turn it off for the first couple hours. And then you aren't going to get distracted anymore. And And I had so many of them coming back saying, man, this is so amazing. And my kids are actually like taking ownership of it. So that is how you get work-life balance, is being able to set your phone down. It's being able to unplug from social media. It's being able to unplug from business and really spend some intentional time and invest intentional time with your family. So that's it for today, guys. So if you have any questions, you're watching the replay, #replay. If you're on live, #live. You're listening to the podcast later on. I'd love to hear from you guys. Just message me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. If you want to hear something specific, but we're talking about lifestyle and business habits that'll take you and your business to the next level. So have a great Thursday.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse.